sexual abuse. I'm going to give you a little bit of statistics and then talk about my story. So this is something Erin Marion posted today, which I just thought was excellent. There are 42 million abuse survivors in our country alone. 3 million of those are children. We could fit those 3 million children on 46 football fields. Just think about that for a moment. How many people, how many children that is that are touched by this horrible, horrible function of inadequate people. Just a few statistics. You can see the types of abuse. Neglect is the #1 in our country. And you can see the growth rate of abuse, actually known cases. And I just keep thinking of how many people I talk to who I've never told that are unknown, which in my opinion is probably double of what we actually know about. And I want to drill home that these are average, everyday people. These perpetrators, these pedophiles, are people in your homes, people in your schools, people in your churches. 79.4% of these offenders are parents. Those are not just fathers, those are mothers. And 6.8% of those are other relatives. As we just heard, a grandfather, we've heard siblings, we've heard grandmothers. I've read and heard about it all. So these are trusted part of the community. These are educated, successful, involved people. And they are the most manipulative and calculated and violent people on this planet. I think it's pretty daring of someone to just commit a murder, but it's very calculated and very violent for someone to offend and sexually abuse or neglect a child. Who are these people? These are everyday people. Does any of these look like offenders, really? The guy on the right, military officer, educated, was a Marine, master's degree. We could go on and on. 20 years in the Army, 10 years in the Marines. Like I said, top security clearance at NSA for our country. The couple on the top right, accused and put away for basically neglecting their child, and that child died. Lady on the bottom, same thing. The guy on the right is my father. He's my offender since I was a baby, an infant, if you ask him. These aren't pictures of me specifically, but there's some children. So I was born in '73 to this Army officer. He was probably a private or something at that time. We were in Japan. My mom was a naive, innocent lady. The abuse started, like I said, in infancy. He remembers 6 months. And to this man, with me anyway, and we'll talk about my brother shortly, with abuse with me, it was never physically violent, but physically violent in a sexual way. So can you imagine as an infant what was being done? Just think about that. Of course, I don't remember it, but him going to court and talking about it, it was quite intriguing not knowing, because I can only remember back about age 3. We then moved to Texas. That's about when I started to remember things that happened, sitting on his lap, watching a movie under a blanket with my mother right next door, right on the couch. This happened all the time. Now, I was naive. We then moved to Maryland, where we spent the majority of our years. Of course, we were, again, military, so we moved around a lot. And the abuse continued to get worse. We'd go on runs, get physically fit for the sports that I played in, and in the woods. In Maryland, Fort Meade, right next to the National Security Agency of the country. He would do what he wanted to do with me there in the woods. He would take me to soccer in a van that we owned, and he'd take the long way home. We could go on for days. He'd come in my room when everyone was asleep, and he would literally put his penis to my lips while I was sleeping. So this went on and on. The first time I remember intercourse was probably age 8. I remember being just scared to death that what if I did get pregnant, not even knowing what that meant. Sex wasn't talked about in our home. My mom was very naive. We were only allowed to watch G-rated movies till I was 16. So she thought she was protecting us from the outside world, but couldn't even protect us from the inside world. So as this is going on, the one thing I always thought about was making sure I was always with my brother. Because if he was a girl, it would be happening to him too. What I didn't know is it was happening to him. So this young man who's trying to learn how to be a man in this world is being abused and raped by his father. So not only was he abusing and raping me, he was abusing and raping my brother, and he was manipulating and emotionally beating up my mother. So 3 people in the same household, and nobody knew about anybody. And people say, I can't believe your mom didn't know. You don't know him. You know, if we go back and look at this picture, Educated, smart, manipulative, calculated. He had it down to a science. Sad but true. The smartest people we know are doing this. So, back to the story. We went to Germany. We had a storage space in the very top. I don't know if anybody knows what military housing looks like, but it's like an apartment building. And you have your floor that you live on, and there's a little storage place that you have up above, like 5 layers up. Go up there, and he would have pornographic magazines and movies, and it was required. You know, basically, if you tell, your mother will never see you again. If you tell, they'll probably put me away. Do you want to be responsible for your father being put away? You need to have sex with me today because your mom hasn't done it in so long that we might break up if you don't take care of my needs. These are the things I heard over and over and over. My brother, on the other hand, he was being sexually abused, which is bad enough for a boy. But he was also being beaten. Beaten to a pulp. Beaten until he peed blood. Beaten until his back was so black and blue. I just never seen anything like it. He wouldn't allow anybody to be in when he was changing his clothes, and we just thought he was modest. He wouldn't try on a shirt in the store like boys do. And now we know why. So as you said, you have the guilt of being abused and raped by this man in your own home, but you have this immense guilt that my younger brother was abused as well. Immense. I can't even explain it. So in '93, my parents were split up at this time, and nothing to do with anything that happened yet. So we figure I'm 18 years old almost. And he moved out just because he was angry at Dad. But still had visiting rights. So you can imagine what that was like when he had his own apartment. If I go back to Germany time, I mean, he wanted to take me skiing for a week. Thank God a friend wanted us to go to England. Saved my bacon. Another weekend he wanted me to go skiing with him alone, just him and I was trying to convince my mom. Another friend wanted to go to Amsterdam for the weekend, thank goodness. So, you know, sometimes things happen for reasons. I remember being at a youth group, and this is one thing that I feel very strongly about in this education process of people. Teachers, youth group leaders, pastors, you name it, you need to listen to the children. They tell you without telling you. I remember being in a youth group in Germany, and I was probably 12 or 13 years old, and we were talking about parents and relationships, and it was a girls group. And I remember her saying, you know, dads and first daughters, and we're close, and I go, but you know what, my dad has a different kind of love for me. And she says, you know what, dads do that for their first kids. So, in my world, this was normal, right? This was happening in everybody else's home, you just didn't talk about it. So, as we move on, we're in Washington, it's continuing. I'm now in a high school. He's a stalker, I forgot to add that. When I was in Germany in junior high, no matter where I was or what I was doing, I could look around and find him in a distance. Whether it be in our car, whether it be watching me at lunch. In high school, I went to one high school football game, and there he was. Never went to a dance because I did not want to go there. High school, worst years of my life. Everybody says it's their favorite years of their life. Mine, worst. So you move here, and all these people have been in school together all their lives. You know, you're going to private or a public school that's not military. Sat with the nerds and the geeks because I didn't want anybody to find out. I didn't want anybody to know. So fast forward to '93, all this has been happening for years and years and years. How I never became pregnant, I will never know. How my brother never spoke up sooner, I'll never know. So they were split up, and I was working 4 jobs because I didn't want to be home. I wanted to be busy. And when I was home, I'd take my brother out and we'd get food or, you know, protect him kind of thing. But he stole the car one night. An extra car was at the house, and he got home just 10 minutes after my mother. And she said, you know, if you keep this up, because he kept, you know, he'd steal something at the mall, or if you keep this up, they're going to make you live with your father. Those were life-changing words. Make you live with your father. My brother snapped. Now, I wasn't there at the moment. I was working, of course. But he lost it. He completely lost it. You have no idea what your husband has done to us. To me, because he didn't know about me at the time. You have no idea what that man has done to me over the years. And he just sat there for 2 hours and telling my mother, now remember, naive, in innocent, emotionally abused, no clue, completely sight-blighted mother who loves her kids so much, she would make sure that other people never did anything wrong to them. And if she had an opportunity to deflect any kind of negative attention from my father, she did. She was devastated, mortified, calls me at work and tells me I need to come home now. I drive home, and they're sitting at the table and I knew something was horribly wrong. And my brother told the story. And everything that had happened to me didn't matter. All that mattered is that young boy was broke. His spirit was gone. And I'll be honest, it took me 2 days to tell her. She asked me over and over, "You sure you didn't do anything to you?" I never answered, because that woman couldn't take it anymore that night. I get all choked up about it. She couldn't take it anymore. Now, how many people do we hear the mother goes and stands on the side of man? Or the other way around? My mother stood her ground. She called the police, and she pushed forward. And this man served, he received a 17-year sentence. We went fully all the way. We went to court, we spoke in front of the judge, with him right there glaring us down, completely staring us down. And we made it through that 3 hours. I don't know how, because I'll tell you, it was hard. It was, my mother went into a shock, basically. Her body went into convulsions. We had to remove her from the courtroom. And that day, I was able to stand in front of a judge and say, "Have no mercy on him, as he has had no mercy on us." And that judge gave him an exceptional sentence of 17 years. And you know how our justice system works. He served 11, which, hey, 11 is better than a lot of them end up being in, I'll be honest with you. And I hope to hell that there's many a men that took advantage of him as he took advantage of us. So, we'll fast forward now, all the way to 2005. He gets out of prison. I file a lifetime restraining order for me and my children. Curiosity killed the cat, right? He's human. I wouldn't even put it past him to have tried to make contact. Because in his eyes, he did nothing wrong, even to this day. So we went to the hearing for the restraining order. He asked to be transported from prison. Remember, he was on McNeil Island, the nasty sex offender prison at the time. And he asked to come and be at this hearing and talk against me on why there should not be a restraining order. They denied it, thank goodness, because I don't know how I would have handled that. But he did write an 8-page letter on how he wanted to be a part of me and my children's lives. He was so excited to be a grandfather, and he was not a violent man. And this is no joke, this is written words out of his mouth. And this is how psychotic and mixed up and sick these people are. So the judge over the hearing was basically laughing the entire time she read it. And she said there's no hesitation, and that's why we denied his transport. But you know, we had, like I said, it was an exceptional court process that we went through. You don't hear that all the time. You also don't hear mothers that stand by their children. And so to anybody who's standing or listening to this and thinking my mother's done anything wrong, absolutely not. Absolutely not. She didn't do anything wrong. So kind of my point is, these are every single day people. Right? I mean, look at him, really. I wish I had a picture of him in his officer uniform. You would have no clue. None. What about your child's pastor? Stop that. What about your husband or your wife? And I'm not here to say every family has this going on, but I'm here to say open your eyes and pay attention. Pay attention. As my mother looks back now, and we talk about it a lot, there's things that she could have caught on to. But she was so emotionally abused that she was just trying to survive her day-to-day life. And she was trying to keep us alive, really. You know, I mean, she was just trying to get us to be able to be good grown adults to survive in this country. So my brother went down the road of drugs, alcohol, abuse. He would never sexually abuse anybody or anything, but he'd had a couple assaults against him. He was in prison until 2005. And he has been clean and straight and narrowed now since then. And he's married and happy, and things are good. I have 2 children. We have our own business. I also have a day job, and my mission is to stop this from happening to other children. And I talk to my children, no, don't lie to your kids. They're smart. Don't hide things from them. They know what's going on. Talk about things. So I just hope that everybody will get on the bandwagon and pay attention. Educate, educate, educate. The other thing too, if you hear about the one-strike law coming your way, please really pay attention to that. You know, everybody goes, how could you put someone away for life, okay? But what if that person raped or molested or offended or killed 20 kids? Put them away for life. It costs us $1 a day. A lot less than a lifetime of counseling and therapy. Thank you very much, and thank you, Connie, for coming out.
Thank you.
This is the first time I've actually gotten through it without like totally destroying.
Oh my God, you're so good. I'm just gonna cry.
That's the story. What do you do, right?
Great story. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
That was wonderful.
Thank you, Penny. That was very proper. Thank you, Shelley. You know, people just don't realize. They think, you know, this doesn't happen here. This doesn't happen in our family or in our community. But actually it does. There's 1 in 3 children, 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually assaulted before their 18th birthday. And if you look around a room or an audience and you just count that down and just silently think about that, that's astronomical. And you think that 90% of kids are not telling. You know, the statistics are all wrong. You know, because most of your programs are based on your statistics. And that's the reason we're going across the nation and we're also conducting research for the current needs of our communities. We want to design better programs. We want to get children the resources and the tools they need and their community leaders. We want to be able to have children to have safer environments. And that's the reason we teach parents and grandparents. They are the frontline defense of child sexual assault prevention and human trafficking prevention. And we teach them the tools and the resources they need to see what's going on. If you see somebody like a child, if you see them starting having crying fits, or if they're having nightmares, or if they're trying to insert toys, or trying to do things that are sexually inappropriate, you know, that's a bad sign. And you know, there's something going on, and you think that just wouldn't happen, but I'm telling you, it does. It happens to homes all across the nation. And you hear about stranger danger, but a lot of it is in the homes, or a family member, or a neighbor, or a community leader. So you really have to be diligent with your children. They are your vital resources for the nation and for your future. You have to just really teach our children. And if you see that their grades are dropping, or they're cutting, or they're hurting, or they're getting into drugs or promiscuity, get them the help, because I promise you, according to the CDC, it costs states $24.3 billion directly. And that's when a child is sexually assaulted, they start getting into drugs, they start getting into promiscuity. It affects their grades at school, it affects the education system, the mental health systems, the judicial systems. So please help us as we stand together and we fight across this nation through the Shatter the Silence Tour Documentary Project. And that we're just gathering organizations like Shelley's and Penny's from across the nation to unite with one voice. You know, I travel across the country and I talk to teens. You know, and they think things like the Rihanna and Chris Brown incident is just normal in relationships. They think that it's you're supposed to accept and condone things like that, to have that kind of relationship. And we're here to educate them and tell them, no, it's not. That it's not okay. And so I want to start by reading this poem, but then I want to get back to that poem. It's called He's Watching. Mysterious nights went by slowly and numbered, while her innocent body lay in a genuinely deep slumber. A monster in the dark lurked about, conjuring up evil, so for her there was no way out. He cast his evil spell that fathomed her soul. No one was she to tell when from her innocence he stole. There's nowhere to run and there's nowhere to hide. He's sneering, waiting, and watching. Signs of the dawn suddenly appear, and the secrets of the nights are profoundly made clear. King of the giants, with all their knowledge, could not foresee the woe, the pain, and the misery. Poison still lingers in the air, but no need to worry, he's still there. He's sneering, waiting, and watching. The sun begins to shine through the shadowy veil. Time heals all wounds and life prevails. The evil of the night no longer hovers over her breast. She can sleep without crying, and fear is put to rest. Her beauty is more captivating with each passing day. Yet, taunting memories still creep in her way. He's sneering, he's waiting, he's watching. Pulled out of dreamland by an overwhelming fright. Make him stop. What's that sound? I'm scared. Who keeps lurking in the night? Her trembling heart is silenced by the refuge that is here. Was it a dream, or is he still there? Her conscience is here. She knows he is still there. He's staring, he's waiting, he's watching somewhere. And I wrote that we grew up in an abusive home, and it just became our comfort zone because we were used to seeing my mom beat up on a daily basis. We were used to seeing the alcohol and the hell raising, as you would say. And it was just, we just tried to stay invisible. I'm outside and played a lot. My stepfather raped me when I was 11. My mother and them had gone to his families for that day, and so we lived in a small trailer. You couldn't get out. And I locked the door. I heard him before she was even backing out the driveway. He was locking all the doors, and so I locked my little door in the little bitty trailer and just prayed and just crawled up in the corner. And he said, "If you don't open this door, you know what I'll do? I'll kill you and your mother too." And yes, we knew he could, and we knew they'd never find us, and so we did. And afterwards, he said, "Now don't you feel better?" And so it's just those things you say. People should just, get on with their life, and they should get over it. That's just, that kind of trauma, it alters the neural pathways of your brain. So unless you work through the processes of healing and your counseling, and which most children don't ever get, you're just not going to have the maturity and the knowledge and the resources to make healthy relationships, to make healthy decisions. So naturally, I married an abusive person. I was going into the Air Force and talking to him and getting married. He was nice, charming, good Christian guy. But after a few years of marriage, that turned out not to be so. So I ended up raising my children on my own, put us through college. And while I was in college, I didn't want to repeat the cycle, and I didn't want our children to repeat the cycle. So I conducted my research on why we fall in love with who we do. And what happens is it becomes our comfort zone when we watch our parents, the way they interact with one another, whether it be loving and caring and nurturing, and that's your comfort zone. Or they're being abuse, lying and drinking and alcohol, emotional abandonment, neglect, abuse, that becomes your comfort zone. So while consciously you say, "I'll never be like my mother, I'll never be like my father," subconsciously that's exactly the relationship you look for, because you look for that interaction, that's what's comfortable for you. And so that's how it becomes a multi-generational epidemic of child sexual assault, human trafficking. So we ask you today, and when we talk to kids, we say, take off those labels. And parents told you you weren't good enough, or that you weren't loved, or that all you were needed was sex. And just take off those labels and know in your heart what you can do and what you can accomplish and follow your own destiny. Just stand up, stop the cutting. I want to say thank you for stopping the cutting, stopping the abuse. And most kids, they don't tell until after they're in a comfort zone. So if you had to say something to a young Shelley or to a young Penny, what would you tell that young child at that age? Would you tell them to say thank you for being strong, thank you for making it, thank you for hanging in there and surviving the best way you could, despite the mistakes and the things you made? It was not your fault. It was never your fault. When they come in that room, that was on them and that responsibility. And as sick as it was, and the feelings that you had, and your body is responding to these pleasures, but deep inside it's killing your soul. And so we ask people across the nation, please step up. And so we got to stop losing our children. They're falling through the cracks. We got to stop this lost souls of America, and that's how they turn out to be either child abusers, or they turn out to be serial killers, or they commit suicide. Or some of them learn to thrive. Some of them learn to thrive and through the survival, and they teach others. And so we want to ask you to join us as we travel across the nation on the Shattering Silence Tour documentary project. We ask you to stand up and say, enough is enough. We will not be silent anymore. We ask you to stand up and say, we will become modern-day abolitionists. We will fight the human trafficking, which is now a $32 billion industry. It's surpassing the drug industry. We ask you to stand up and fight with us. And so we want to say thank you for coming to the Shattering Silence Tour documentary project. And y'all have a blessed day, and we'll see you in Eugene, Oregon. Take care.